Hello and welcome everybody back to Blue Rose Mini. Sorry I haven't been posting in a while. So today, if you guys can't tell, these are night palindromes. I am currently working on a night. So I'm working on a night. This is going to be the color palette. What else I want to do with it, I haven't quite decided yet, and I know I need to decide soon before I start fully painting this night up. But anyway, one of the things that I really wanted to do was put scales, almost like dragon scales, on the palindromes. So I went ahead and took an opposite palindrome from each of the two sets of palindromes that I have, and I'm gonna go ahead and attempt to do some dragon scales. Now I haven't really seen anything on YouTube that has been very helpful for me, so I'm just gonna go ahead and figure it out as I go. So over here off camera I have a pot of water, and I'm just gonna go ahead and grab some water and put it on my workstation. This will make it so that when I'm working with the green stuff on the table, it is not going to stick to it. Having also wet my tool here, I'm just going to go ahead and cut away the middle section that has already bonded and cured together. And I'm just going to go ahead and mix this. Pretty self-explanatory so far, and I do have some more green stuff on the side should I need some more. Now this has more yellow in it than blue, which means it's going to be a lot less stiff, which I actually do not mind. I think that will actually work in our favor a little bit more than it being a darker green and being stiff. So we're just gonna continue kneading. Don't forget to keep your hands moist so that it does not stick to you. Alright, so that actually looks pretty cool, pretty decent. Sorry if you guys can't see it, but okay, so I think we can work with that. So just moistening it up again, grabbing a palindrome, and I can already see that I am going to need more green stuff. And if you notice here, I have some green stuff. This is because before I came up with this idea, I had actually put in magnets on all of the palindromes. So like, see on this one, I have 2 holes of green stuff, and I just went ahead and put the green stuff in there, let it cure, and then I just went ahead and with my sculpting tools and file tools went ahead and filed that down and smoothed it out. Now for the back, I didn't really bother with it that much because it's really not going to be, it's not going to matter, it's going to be hidden away, so the back is the back. You don't have to pay too much attention to that. So getting on with the project, so I am just gonna apply the green stuff onto the palindrome like so, and I am actually at this time going to mix up some more. So alright, so I'm gonna only be mixing up small portions of green stuff just because I don't want any to go to waste should I not use it. So once again, I'm just gonna go ahead and mix this as quickly as I can. Again, having more yellow than blue to keep it nice and soft, just so we can work with it a little bit longer. Now, doing this of course does increase the drying time of this green stuff, but it's something that we have to deal with for the project that we want to undertake at the moment. So I'm actually gonna put this on the side to extend it all the way down to the palindrome. I do still want some of the palindrome showing, but not as many. And as you can see, it's very malleable, so we can go ahead and shift the center green stuff over to the sides a little bit. This does thin it out a little bit, but it's a problem we'll deal with when we come across it. So once we have, okay, so coming back in with a sculpting tool that I just have lying around, I'm gonna go ahead and wet it, and I'm just gonna go ahead and press it into it, and I am just gonna go ahead and move it down. Oops, so see right there, it's a little bit thin. As I am pushing this down, I am moving it downward. Now I have a feeling that this is gonna appear more of like fur, but I'm just gonna go ahead and roll with it. And then going up, so see, the more thin the green stuff is on this palindrome, the harder it is to see where the center is. Okay, so I do not like how this is appearing, so I'm just gonna go ahead and attempt to scrape this off. So I'm just taking my tool and scraping back and forth, making sure not to leave, or trying not to leave too much green stuff as possible. If you do, it's no big deal, just wait for it to dry and then you can just shape it down. But I kinda want to try to avoid that if at all possible. And when it gets into the corners, you could just I'm just taking the pointy end of this same sculpting tool. I'm just gonna go ahead and scrape it off. Okay, so once we got it to about that state, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna actually grab some water, and instead of putting it on my workstation, I'm gonna put it on the palindrome and then see if I can take off just a little bit more. Like I said, it's not a problem if you can't, but it's however you wanna do it. You really have to fill it out yourself. So I'm gonna actually do something a little bit different. So I'm gonna put more water on my workstation, and I'm just gonna go ahead and make it into almost a shark tooth shape. So I'm just gonna go ahead and line it up in the center just like that, and then I'm gonna slowly trying to keep the shape. Alright, so now I'm just kind of trying to form it back into a triangle shape. Alright, and then we're gonna try this again. And I actually like how this is going a little bit better. So remember just to always start from the center of the previous row and then add one more on either side. And as you go higher, because it does get a little bit bigger towards the top, you might want to press down a little less and or angle your tool just a little bit more. So see, my tool starting to stick, so now I know I need to wet it. And it doesn't matter if some scales disappear, because that will just later on add to what we are trying to do. Okay, so once we're done with that, I'm actually gonna go ahead and take my pointy end, stick it in, and kind of go at some of the deeper ones a little bit, just to bring them a little bit more to the surface. And then I'm actually gonna remove the little edge that has appeared with all our pushing and prodding, just to make it, not only does this put it back into the triangle shape that we started out with, it also cleans up the edges a little bit more. And then if you want to reshape them, just carefully re-stick your tool into each of the slots. You don't want to disrupt the pattern that came before it, but this also helps to reshape a lot of, like you see a lot of these bottom ones that seem to have lost their shape. And then if you see a space, you can just go ahead and again, it does not have to be perfect. If you do want it to be perfect, then you might want to adjust your green stuff mixture, have more blue than yellow, just to give you a stiffer base to work. And then don't worry how odd it finishes, we're gonna actually do something here. Okay, so after that, we're only left with a small ball of green stuff, and we clearly need some more. So I'm gonna go ahead and make up another batch. Now this is a project where making the green stuff as you need it is better than just making a bunch at once. Alright, so just to clean up the edges a little bit, because it does look kind of odd like that, I'm just gonna go ahead and put a decorative border around. So I'm just gonna go ahead and snake the green stuff. Alright, so now I'm just cutting off the ends that I don't need. Alright, so that's looking pretty good to me. So now let's add something to the top of this. So I'm thinking we could do some fur. Okay, we want to make it pretty thick, but we also want to make it the full length of this palindrome. And in case you guys don't have as much green stuff as I can, or it's for whatever reason it's hard for you to get a hold of green stuff, I'm gonna go ahead and show you another method in which we will again be experimenting on how to do this. Okay, so now we are gonna push it down gently, and we want to be very careful when we get to this part that we've already done. Ideally you would want to wait until this dries, but I'm just gonna go ahead and wing it and let the pieces fall where they may, and I hope it turns out okay. So getting my pokey end, I'm just gonna go ahead and stick and pull. So you're gonna do that. You can be a little messy with this, it doesn't really affect the piece. And again, we want to be careful when we get to this specific part. I am just pulling very gently so that I don't accidentally jam anything into what we've already done and created. Now, the reason why I'm going to be doing scales on both of these palindromes that I showed you earlier is because I am kind of going with a dragon theme for them. So one of them is obviously going to be a deep crimson. Another one is going to be almost like a blue silver. Haven't really quite figured out how to make that color, but now I am starting to tug and pull this in different directions because, you know, fur is unpredictable, and this thing's on top on a night that's huge. So obviously wind's gonna get to it. So I'm just trying to make sure that side stays down. Now when you're pulling in a different direction or pulling upward, you need to be very careful because it can pull the entire piece you're working on off of where you want it to solidify. So again, just being very careful. And this again has used up all of the green stuff that we have previously made. Pull off the end and then ruffle it out a little bit. Now when it comes to the ends, and you see that how I just pull it and I just kind of like scrape and everything like that, because I'm trying to get the end part to be solid on the plastic so that when it dries you get a really nice solid fit. Because if you noticed it, so in some places where I'm pulling and tugging up at, it's kind of like almost levitating above the piece, and as it sits, gravity will befall it, so it will stick to the plastic. It just won't have a nice grip, if you get me. Alright, so I actually like how that looks, so I'm gonna go ahead and add that to this border as well. Now guys, remember that this is fur, so just go crazy with it. And then if you like, because some of the edges on the first original triangle piece that we did are a little bit unfinished, you can go ahead and pull that into the fur to combine the two. It also helps for if later on you decide you don't want this, you can easily take it off. Now at this point you want to make sure when going back to redo the scales that the tool that you are using is very moist, because you do not want anything lifting up at this point, because at this point everything is now officially connected. And if one thing were to mess up, then so this is how it should be looking right at this stage. Now we do have a little bit of green stuff left, and I'm just kind of, you can just kind of look at it and kind of decide what you want to add to this. And I am actually pretty okay with how this came out. So I think I'm actually gonna leave it like that, and then when I paint it, I might actually paint scales on, which I scales on this just to kind of complete the look and bring it all in together. And I will be doing a tutorial on that. So moving on. So like I said, if you don't have any green stuff on hand, you can go to a Walmart, to a local hobby store, and pick up about 2 24-hour air drying clay in the color of white, a total of 2.2 pounds or 1 kilo if you're in the UK or any other country that uses that metric system. So I have used this before. This will be my second time using it, and I just go ahead and put it in a bag that's about the size of it, just so it stays mushy. So if you see, let me just grab something. So as you can see, it kind of makes indents. It makes indents, so it's still dry. Now guys, when you get this, you have to be very, very careful, because if you put in a bag that say has a hole on the corner and you've only used, say, not even a half, like maybe an eighth of it, this entire thing will dry. It will be useless, guys. And this is pretty cheap, but I don't think you guys want to go back and spend another $10 on something that's probably going to dry out again if you don't store it properly. So just taking it out. Now these do have a shelf life. I believe depending on how well you take care of it, it can last you for a couple months. But I do know that there are some clays out there that have about a year shelf life. So I'm just gonna go ahead and grab a whole bunch of this. So I think about that much, about kind of like, see if you were to roll this into a ball, something that would fit just in the palm of your hand, kind of. Bringing in our next palette. Now this is probably a little bit more than what we are actually going to be using, but it's always better to take out more than what you think you need. So we're gonna do things similar to the green stuff one, but we're gonna try to be a little bit different. So I'm just kind of looking at the other Paladrone, deciding what I want to do with it. I want something similar, but something different as well. So actually I can't think of anything right now, so I'm actually just gonna put this on here. And so having this on now, I'm gonna go ahead and make sure it's even thickness with the edge of this Paladrone. So see how if you look down, it's not really a lot overflowing. That's kind of what we're looking around a little bit. And then we're gonna go over the previous ones that we did, just to make sure we retain that particular shape. Now if you don't want to keep going over everything, you can spread it out a little bit. That does kind of help. Just be careful, because like with the green stuff, this can stick to your tool. Now we are actually going to push. We're going to push a lot of the clay underneath what we just did, just to give it more of a point or edge to it. Now you are going to be tempted to go for water, so if it helps, you can go ahead and take some tweezers to kind of sharpen up points and edges. Now in terms of thickness on the Paladrone itself, I do think that the green stuff lies a bit more flush on the Paladrone itself, but they are pretty much